"It must make haste, haste," said Gollum, beginning to climb out of his boat to the shore to get at Bilbo. But when he put his long feebly foot in the water, a fish jumped out in a fright and fell on Bilbo's toes. "Ah," he said, "it is cold and clammy," and so he guessed. "Fish, fish," he cried, "it is fish." Gollum was dreadfully disappointed, but Bilbo asked another riddle as quickly as ever he could, so that Gollum had to get back into his boat and think. "No legs lay on one leg, 2 legs sat near on 3 legs, 4 legs got some." It was not really the right time for this riddle, but Bilbo was in a hurry. Gollum might have had some trouble guessing it if he had asked it another time, as it was talking to a fish. No legs was not so very difficult, and after that the rest was easy. Fish on a little table, man at table sitting on a stool, the cat has the bones. That of course is the answer, and Gollum soon gave it. Then he thought that the time had come to ask something hard and horrible. This is what he said. "The thing all things devours, birds, beasts, trees, flowers, gnaws in iron, bites steel, grinds hard stones to meal, slay king, ruins town, and beats high mountain down." Poor Bilbo sat in the dark, thinking of all the horrible names of all giants and ogres he can have ever heard told of in tales, but not one of them had done all these things. He had a feeling that the answer was quite different than he thought to know it, but he could not think of it. He began to get frightened, and that is bad for thinking. Gollum began to get out of his boat. He flapped into the water and paddled back to the bank. Bilbo could see his eyes coming towards him. His tongue seemed to stick in his mouth. He wanted to shout out, give me more time," but all that came out was a sudden squeal, was time. Bilbo was saved by pure luck, for that of course was the answer. Gollum was disappointed once more, and now he was getting angry and also tired of the game. It had made him very hungry indeed. This time he did not go back to his boat. He sat down in the dark by Bilbo. That made the hobbit most dreadful, uncomfortable, and scattered his wits. "It's got to ask you a question, my precious. Yes. Just one more question to guess. Yes, said Gollum. But Bilbo simply could not think of any questions with that nasty, wet, cold thing sitting next to him and pawing and poking him. He scratched himself and pinched himself. Still he could not think of anything. Ask us. Bilbo pinched himself and slapped himself. He gripped on his little sword, and he even felt in his pocket with his other hand. There he found the ring he had picked up in the passage and forgotten about it. "What have I got in my pocket?" he growled. He was talking to himself, but Gollum thought it was a riddle, and he was fairly frightfully upset. Not fair, he hissed. "It isn't fair, my precious, is it, to ask us what it's got in its nasty little pockets?" To ask stuck to his question. "What have I got in my pocket?" he said louder. He said Gollum. "It must give us 3 guesses, my precious. 3 guesses. Very well, guess away," said Bilbo. "Hands," said Gollum. "Wrong," said Bilbo, who had likely just taken his hand out again. "Guess again," said Gollum, more upset than ever. He thought all these things he kept in his own pockets: fish bones, goblin teeth, wet shells, a bit of bagwing, a sharp stone to sharpen his fangs on, and the other nasty things. He tried to think of what other people who kept in his pocket. "Knife," he said at last. "Wrong," said Bilbo, who had lost his some time ago. Last guess. Now Gollum was in much worse state than when Bilbo had asked him the egg question. He hissed and spluttered and rocked himself backwards and forwards and slapped his feet on the floor and wriggled and squirmed. But still he did not dare to waste his last guess. "Come on, I'm waiting." He tried to sound bold and cheerful, but he did not feel all sure how the game was going to end. Whether Gollum guessed right or not, "Time's up. String or nothing," shrieked Gollum, which was not quite fair, working in 2 guesses at once. "Both wrong," cried Bilbo, very much relieved, and he jumped at once to his feet and put back to the nearest wall and held out his little sword. He knew, of course, that the riddle game was sacred and of immense antiquity. and even wicked creatures were afraid to cheat when they played at it, but he felt he could not trust this slimy thing to keep out promised at a pinch. Any excuse would do for him to slide out of it, and after all, that last question had not been genuine riddle according to the ancient laws. But at any rate, Gollum did not at once attack him. He could see the sword in Bilbo's head. He sat still, shivering and whispering. At last, Bilbo could not wait no longer. "Well," he said, what about your promise? I want to go. You must show me the way." "Did we say so, my precious? You show the nasty little buggings the way out." Yes, yes, but what has it got in its pockets, eh?" "Not strings, precious, but not nothing." "Oh no, Gollum. Never mind," said Bilbo. "A promise is a promise. Cross it is." "Impatient, precious," hissed Gollum. But it must wait. Yes, it must. We can't go up the tunnel so hasty. We must go get some things first." "Yes, things to help us." "Well, hurry up," said Bilbo, relieved to thinking of Gollum going away. He thought he was just making an excuse and did not mean to come back. What was Gollum talking about? What was useful thing could he keep out from the dark lake? But he was wrong. Gollum did mean to come back. He was angry now and hungry. And he was miserable, wicked creature, and already had a plan. Not far away from this was his island, of which Bilbo knew nothing, and one very beautiful knew nothing, and there in its hiding place he kept a few wretched oddments, and one very beautiful thing, a very beautiful, very wonderful. He had a ring, a golden ring, a precious ring. "My birthday's present," he whispered to himself, as he had often done in the endless dark days. "That's what we want now. Yes, we want." He wanted it because it was a ring of power, and if you slipped the ring on your finger, you were invisible. Only in the full sunlight could you be seen, and then only by the shadow, and that would be shaky and faint. "My birthday present, it came to me on my birthday, my precious." So he had always said to himself, but knew how Gollum came by the present. Ages ago, in the old days, when such rings were still at large in the world, perhaps the master who ruled them could not have said. Gollum used to wear it at first till it tired him, and then he kept it in a pouch next his skin till it galled him. And now usually he hid it in a hole in a rock on his island, and he was always going back to look at it. And sometimes he put it on when he was very, very hungry and tired of fish. Then he might even venture into places where the torches were lit and made his eyes blink and smart, for he would be safe. Oh yes, quite safe. No one would see him. No one would notice him till he had his fingers on their throats. Only a few hours ago he had worn it and caught a small goblin imp. How it squeaked. He still had a bone or two left to gnaw, but he wanted something softer. Quite safe, yes, he whispered to himself. It won't see us, will it, my precious? No, it won't see us, and its nasty little sword, you will be useless. Yes, quite. That is what was in his wicked little mind, as he slipped suddenly from Bilbo's side, and flapped back into his boat, and went off to the dark. Bilbo thought he had heard the last of him. Still he waited a while, for he had no idea how to find a way out. How to find his way out alone. Suddenly he had a screech. It sent a shiver down his skull. Gollum cursing and wailing away in his group, not very far off by the sound of it. He was on his island, scrambling here and there, searching and seeking in vain. Where is it? Where is it? Bilbo heard him crying, "Lost it is, my precious. Lost, lost. Curse us, crush us. My precious is lost." "What's the matter?" Bilbo called. "What have you lost?" "I mustn't ask us," shrieked Gollum. "Not its business. No, Gollum. It's lost, Gollum, Gollum, Gollum." "Well, so am I," cried Bilbo, and I want to get unlost, and I want a game, and you promised, so come along. Come and let me out. And then go on your looking. Utterly miserable as Gollum sounded, Bilbo could not find much pity in his heart, and he had a feeling that anything Gollum wanted so much could hardly be something. Come along, he shouted. No, not yet, my precious, Gollum answered. We must search for it. It's lost, Gollum. But you never guessed my last question, and you promised, said Bilbo. Never guessed, said Bilbo. Gollum. Then suddenly out of the gloom came a sharp hiss. What has it got in its pockets? Tell us that. It must tell first. As far as Bilbo knew, there was no particular reason why he should not tell. Gollum's mind had jumped to a guess quicker than his naturally, for Gollum had brooded for ages on this one thing, and he was always afraid of being stolen. But Bilbo was annoyed at the delay. After all, he had won the game pretty fair at a horrible risk. Answers were not to be guessed, not given, he said. But it wasn't a fair question, said Gollum. Not a riddle, precious. No. Oh well, if it is a matter of ordinary questions, Bilbo replied. Then I asked Run first. What have you lost? Tell me that. What has it got in its pockets? The sound came hissing louder and sharper as he looked towards it, and to his alarm, Bilbo now saw two small points of light peering at him. As suspicion grew in Gollum's mind, the light in his eyes burned with a pale flame. What have you lost? Bilbo persisted. Now the light in Gollum's eyes had become a green fire, and it was coming swiftly near. Gollum was in his boat, again paddling wildly and back to the dark shore, and such a rage of loss and suspicion was in his heart that no sword had any more terror in him. Bilbo could not guess what had maddened the wretched creature, but he saw that all was up, and that Gollum meant to murder him at any rate. Just in time he turned and blindly back up the dark passage down, which he had come, keeping close to the wall, feeling it with his left hand. What has it got in his pockets? He heard as the hiss loud behind him, and the wonder as Gollum What have I wondered, he said to himself as he painted and stumbled along. He put his left hand in his pocket. The ring felt very cold, and as he quietly stripped on his groping forefinger, the hiss was close behind him. He turned now and saw Gollum's eyes like small green lamps coming up the slope. Terrified, he tried to run faster, but he suddenly struck his toes on a snag in the floor and fell flat with his little sword under him. In a moment, Gollum was on him, but before Bilbo could do anything, recover his breath, pick himself up, or wave his sword, Gollum passed by, taking no notice of him, cursing and whispering as he ran. What could it mean? Gollum could see in the dark. Bilbo could see the light in his eyes, palely shining even from behind. Painfully he got up, sheathed with his sword, which now glowed faintly again, and then very cautiously he followed. There seemed nothing else to do. It was no good crawling back to Gollum's water. Perhaps if he followed him, Gollum might lead him to some way of escape without meaning to. Curse it, curse it, curse it, hissed Gollum. Curse the baggings, it's gone. What has it got in its pockets? Pockets. Oh, we guess, my precious. He's found it. Yes, he must have my birthday present. Bilbo pricked up his ears. He was at last beginning to guess himself. He hurried a little, getting close as he dared behind Gollum, who was still going quickly, not looking back, but turning his head from side to side, as Bilbo could see from the faint glimmer on the walls. My birthday present, curse it! How did we lose it, my precious? Yes, that's it. When we came this way last, when we twisted the nasty young squealer, that's it. Curse it! It slipped from us after all these ages and ages. It's gone, Gollum. Suddenly Gollum sat down and began to weep, and whistling and gurgling sound horrible to listen. Bilbo halted and flattened himself against the tunnel wall. After a while, Gollum stopped weeping and began to talk. He seemed to have an argument with himself. It's no good going back there to search. No, he doesn't remember all the places we visited. And it is no use. The baggings has all got it in his pockets. That nasty noser has found it, we says. We guesses, precious, only guesses. We can't know until we find the nasty creature and squeezes it, but it doesn't know what the present can do, does it? It'll just keep it in its